I'm Marnie Schmidt, and I'm a real believer in operational excellence and quality. My mission is to help people like you build quality systems that improve both your products and your customers' experience overall so that you'll be a believer too. This is the final video of this series in ISO 9001, breaking the standard element by element and line by line. This on-camera stuff is really hard, y'all, but I've really enjoyed myself, and it's really important for me to get the message out there that this standard has some really, really great material. The requirements, I want to break down the barriers to people understanding them and the resistance that people think, I don't know why I'm doing this, I'm doing it because my customer is making me. The stuff in the ISO standard is so helpful if you apply it correctly for your business. So we're wrapping up with the final element, which is element 10. It's all about improvement, and it also includes corrective action. So let's dive right in. 10.1, general. The organization shall determine and select opportunities for improvement and implement any necessary actions to meet customer requirements and enhance customer satisfaction. So now we got to talk about, we've done internal audits, we've done management review, and the final thing that we need to have as part of our management system is striving towards improvement. These shall include A, improving products and services to meet requirements as well as to address future needs and expectations. So the first thing we have to do is improve our products and services to meet requirements, and we also have to have our eyes on the future and make sure that we have improvement plans to meet any new needs that are coming at us. B, correcting, preventing, or reducing undesired effects. Obviously, we have to have a plan for that. That would be making sure that we're getting stronger and more robust and more mature constantly by knowing where we need to correct, prevent, or reduce undesired effects. And C, improving the performance and effectiveness of the quality management system. So overall, not only looking at defects, requirements, but also improving the performance of our system overall. And that is really the desire of any business, that their system gets better, because when their system gets better, it means that they're working more efficiently and more effectively. There's less waste, there's fewer defects, there's fewer errors, and things get to market going the path of least resistance, which usually equals profit. There's a clarifying note here that says examples of improvement can include correction, corrective action, continual improvement, breakthrough change, innovation, and reorganization. So any one of those things can be part of an improvement plan. All of the notes are just clarifying to kind of get you thinking and give you an idea of what kind of examples that they might mean by what they're saying. So then it goes into 10.2, nonconformity corrective action. This is beyond just aspiration to improve. It says specifically we do have to have a formal program for nonconformity and corrective action. And this isn't just about non-conforming products. This is about not conforming to our own systems and processes as well. 10.2.1, when a nonconformity occurs, including any arising from complaints, the organization shall. So we have to have a system, and we're going to have to set this up. So this is what it needs to include. It shall include react to the nonconformity, and as applicable, number 1, take action to control and correct it, and number 2, deal with the consequences. So the first thing is, for any of you who are jumping ahead and thinking, do I have to do root cause analysis? We're not there yet. We're just saying when a nonconformity occurs, and that could be customer feedback, it can be a complaint, it can be something that we discover in-house, it can be not following a procedure or not following a process the way we had intended. At that point, we have to react to the nonconformity, and as applicable, think about how can I take action to control and correct it, and then also deal with the consequences. That's the first thing that I have to do. Now, for something that's a minor issue, that might be all I do. I might control and correct it, and then deal with the consequences and call it a day. I don't necessarily have to take it all the way down a root cause road for something that's minor and relatively insignificant. But then it goes on, building on this theme. It says, okay, so the organization shall react to the nonconformity first, then evaluate the need for action to eliminate the causes of the nonconformity in order that it does not recur or occur elsewhere by. So then it says, then we have to evaluate the need for taking it a step further. We might be able to just control and correct it, call it a day, deal with the consequences and be done with it. And then we have to take a breath and go, okay, now, do I think I need to take this a step further and figure out the cause of the nonconformity? by doing these three things. Number one, reviewing and analyzing the nonconformity. So I might just look at the nonconformity and review it and go, yeah, that was a one-off, it's not a big deal. Or, this might be something, I'm not really sure, I think I need to look into it some more. Or maybe it's a trend. Number two, determining the cause of the nonconformity. And three, determining if similar nonconformities exist or could potentially occur. So, in that first section in A, we've started collecting nonconformities. What I would suggest, my suggestion to you would be have a place where you can collect all of your nonconformances, that you report them in some way. So it might be your product nonconformities that you're discovering in process as you're manufacturing, or problems reported if you're providing a service, or if you've got some sort of an electronic service that you do that's got a workflow and you've got errors. Make sure you have a place that you could collect things like that. And then also, what other kinds of nonconformities? Well, you might have customer complaints. You might have internal audit results, might be something that you'll find nonconformities there for sure. Eventually, you keep doing an internal audit, you're like, oh yeah, there was a nonconformity, we weren't following our process. That would be a nonconformity as well. Have a way that you can just collect all of these in one place, or somehow get them summarized, because you want to not only report them, because we might take option A, which is we're just going to deal with it and call it a day, or we might think I got to go to option B, which is take it to a root cause analysis and try to eliminate the cause of the nonconformity. But also remember that it's got, in doing so, we need to be able to review and analyze the nonconformity, determine the cause of the nonconformity, and determine if similar nonconformities exist or could potentially occur. So this is another thing, that if we have this one place where we're collecting all of them, the first time we might call option A and be like, nah, no big deal, we'll just deal with it and move on. But if we have in that same collection point, we keep seeing this one where it was oh, that was a one-off and we closed it. Oh, that was a one-off and we closed it. Oh, that was a one-off and we closed that. Oh, we've still got that list. We can start to see, wait a minute, we're seeing a trend here. This isn't a one-off. This is a 3, 4, 5, 6 off. We need to put those together, and then then we analyze it as a nonconformance that we're going to take all the way through root cause analysis and figure out what is common and similar among these items and what's causing it. And then also within that, if we find that this was an issue and we did do a root cause analysis and the root cause told us that, there's something really, really wrong with the system here, we're like, well, where else might it be affected? Do we have a similar process? Do we have similar products? We want to make sure that we do an analysis of that as well, not only find the root cause, but where else that root cause might be wreaking havoc on our system. Next, we have to implement any action needed. So doing the root cause, we can identify all of that, and then we have to figure out what action is needed. It might be changing the system. It might be changing the process. It might be training. Please resist the temptation when you're doing this to call every mistake that people make a training issue, and just retraining is going to cure it. Because I promise you, if that's your root cause and that is your corrective action, over time, you're just going to see the same things over and over again, and then that means your corrective action system isn't effective if you're repeating things over and over, and training is not going to cure it. It might cure it in very small circumstances, but please try not to make it a habit and not fall into that. It's lazy. We're better than that. We can try to figure out how to eliminate the human error or reduce the person's ability to make that mistake. If people can make mistakes, then something is amiss in the way the process has been designed. If it's an individual, maybe that's a little different story, but over a whole population of your team and workers, if the mistake is something that can be made fairly easily and is made fairly easily, then we need to do something to adjust the system, make the system more likely, or make it more difficult to make that mistake, I guess is the right way to say it. After we implement some sort of action, we have to review the effectiveness of any corrective action taken. This is so important because in working with corrective actions, as I said, I have been the quality guy for years and years and years. I do it now. I help other companies and I mentor quality professionals. I teach, I consult on site, I help build systems as an advisor now. But even when I was the one managing this, I can't tell you how often it trips people up and businesses up where this was the root cause, we assign a corrective action, and the person does whatever they were supposed to do or whatever I was supposed to do. I took that action, dang it. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. Now I'm going to close that corrective action and call it good. If you don't do this particular required step at D, it's very likely that you're going to make that mistake again, or that the correction that you put in place might fail you. And that is to review the effectiveness of the corrective action taken. Not only review the fact that you took the action. That's fine, especially with regard to that training example I just said. So you say the root cause is training, recommended action is retrain everybody, and then how do I close that out? I'm like, yep, that training session was held. Love, Marnie. I promise that happened. Calling it a day. No. I need to go back and say, yes, the training happened. Everybody was in fact trained. I've got maybe a sign-in sheet. So what? I need to put a little audit reminder for myself to go back and look at that process. I've just done a corrective action. I need to check up on that. I need to verify that the action was effective. Maybe the training did work, or maybe I got to do something else. But that step is absolutely critical when you're designing a corrective action system. Next is we have to update the risks and opportunities determined during planning if necessary. So remember we talked about that tool, the Failure Mode and Effects Analysis, FMEA. If you use that tool on your processes, when you have a corrective action, you might identify a root cause, and if you identify a root cause and you make a change to your thing, one of those potential failure modes that you might have listed way earlier on doing an FMEA might be affected when you do a corrective action. You might have just lowered your risk. You may have just improved your chances of success. You might have addressed something that you recognized as introducing risk into your process, and you need to update whatever that was. Or even if it was a SWOT analysis, if you take a corrective action, and it is gonna make something that was a threat less of a threat, or make something that was a weakness of yours less of a weakness, then you should update your SWOT analysis because you've taken action. Next, we have to make changes to the quality management system if necessary. So it's taking that minute to say, okay, the problem was we weren't doing this particular step, or we were doing the steps out of order, and now we're going to change that. We have to take a minute. Okay, now how does the management system, how is it impacted by this change? Do I need to change a workflow? Do I need to change a process flow diagram? Do I need to change my work instruction? Do I need to change a policy in some way? However it affects the management system, we need to make sure that we take into account that impact and make the change. And then finally in this section, corrective actions shall be appropriate to the effects of the nonconformities encountered. So again, it goes back and summarizes and wraps it up again and reminds us, you don't have to freak out every time you have a small minor nonconformity, but everything should be appropriate. If there's something that is highly impactful or very high risk, you need to make sure that you take that corrective action all the way and take the appropriate action based on how it can be how it can impact to your products, your services, to your customer satisfaction, statutory and regulatory, all of it. So the next section on just that is documented information. So again, when we do corrective action, it's not going to be enough to, yeah, oh no, we saw that problem and we fixed it. We've got to have a documented system for this. So the requirements are 10.2.2. The organization shall retain documented information as evidence of A, the nature of the nonconformities and any subsequent actions taken, and B, the results of any corrective action. So again, if you keep that little nonconformities list, that can be where you just say, this was the nature of the nonconformity, and this is what I did. I fixed the glitch. I contained the problem. I checked everything in the warehouse, and everything in the warehouse was fine. Nothing else has been shipped, and I'm just going to say it's good to go. Or if I did have to take corrective action, then I can go further in that investigation and talk more about the corrective actions that I took. And so you can have that as two different things. If you have software that takes care of that for you already, God bless you. If you don't, you can use a spreadsheet environment. You can write an app to do it. So you can have like the short form, which is just nonconformity happened and I'm not going to worry about it. Or then you can blow up a larger form, which would take you through the steps of root cause analysis. Root cause analysis can be anything you want. You can use 5 why, meaning you ask yourself, why did that happen 5 times? And that might get you to the root cause of your issue. You can use fishbone analysis, there's a million different tools, and I will have videos about those tools coming up as well. But you need to have a nice, robust corrective action system, and it has to be well documented so that you know a history of what you've done. Why? Because having a learning curve for your organization, this is going to help your organizational knowledge as well. Remember, that was a potential input. So lessons learned and things that you have already had to work your way through when you've made mistakes, those are great sources of information. How are we going to ever be able to look back on those if they're not documented? So that's why this definitely is a document required section. So this is wrapping up now, not only nonconformities, we know what happens when we make mistakes, but then once we've got this system so well oiled, we've audited it to death, and we're finding all these things and making corrections, and it's like really starting to just hum. Then we have to start challenging ourselves, and this journey is never over. So then we move into the final requirement, which is continual improvement. 10.3, the organization shall continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the quality management system. So obviously we have to continually improve. So we want to continually improve its suitability, its adequacy, and its effectiveness. And then the organization, final sentence, shall consider the results of analysis and evaluation and the outputs from management review to determine if there are any needs or opportunities that shall be addressed as part of continual improvement. And so you see, if you're starting to see the patterns, when we were back in management review, it kind of gave us a preview. It told us that we were going to need to make an output from our management review based on all the stuff, all the analysis, all the evaluation. And then, it told us also consider any opportunities for improvement. It told us to do all of that. And so it's coming full circle here with continuous improvement. We have to continually improve our system. That's just, it's a responsibility. It's what your whole system was there to do, is to make your business better. And so once we deal with all the issues, we kind of fall back on, if we don't fall back on just that this is all about documentation, we fall back on, well, I think it's pretty much all about corrective action. Well, it's a big, huge part of it. Sure it is. It's identifying areas where things aren't going well and fixing them. But then beyond that, it is about constantly challenging your business and pushing it forward and making it more effective and making it more efficient. All of those are opportunities, and so that's why there's a requirement in here. It's not terribly toothy, it's not hard, and it's not very clear of exactly what continual improvement is expected in terms of this. It's just that we have to do it. We have to be aware of it, and it has to be an integral part of our system. So we have to consider the results of all the analysis and evaluation, all the management review stuff, and then we have to figure out and make a plan going forward as a management team to continually improve that system and always get it better. So I can't tell you how much I enjoyed doing this series for you. I will have new things coming up. We will be dealing with and digging into some things like FMEAs. We talked about that. That's about risk. I'm going to do some things on more about corrective action, more about internal audits, and how to actually do some of those suggestions that I told you about. Corrective actions and problem solving. There'll be some things about that coming up. And Lean and Six Sigma, we're going to have some subject matter about that. I really enjoyed myself. I hope that you will maximize everything that this standard has to offer you. And please keep in touch with me. Visit my website often at www.marnieschmidt.com, and always keep improving.